Hey everybody, welcome back to the Center Lane, a political discussion for those of us in the center who just want our politicians to get some consensus and get some things done. Little beachside report for you today. Beautiful day in Central Florida here. Got some nice little longboard ways if anyone's interested in that. A few things to talk about this week. First off, we'll talk about, what's his name? Oh, Trump, that's right. Talk about Donald Trump and his upcoming administration. His picks, his cabinet picks. I'm not going to go into each one because some of this is old news. Obviously, Matt Gaetz, a Florida boy over here, did not fare too well for a kind of obvious reason. That was an interesting and strange pick in the first place. Pam Bundy, another Floridian, is going to be is his choice now, and I think she'll sail through pretty easily. I mean, she was our attorney general for a while. She's not too bad. She's pretty reasonable, and she's pretty much by the book. So I don't foresee that as being a very contentious pick or anything. I don't think she's going to be some kind of crusader. I think she pretty much follows the letter of the law, like she did when she was our attorney general for the most part. So I think that one's safe. Pete Hesberg, whatever, the defensive secretary pick, I don't look like he's going to make it. I would be pretty surprised if he makes it through. The biggest thing with him is obviously, he has the past of, the sexual assault and the drinking is all, that should be disqualifiers out of the gate. But on top of all that, he's never run anything. The Defense Department is freaking huge. It's $750 billion a year budget. You have to strategize all kind of weapon systems, and you need to know what you're doing. And I know he was in the military, but he was never more than a major, and I believe that he was in the National Guard, so he was deployed, but I don't think that he was like, he's not a 20-year guy who was, had to do a lot of the things that I would think, I don't know, but I would think you need to know how to do to run the Pentagon. You got to be able to, you got a lot of employees, you got a huge budget, you got a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts. So I don't see him making it through. Now, some of the people they've talked about taking his place, Joni Ernest, the senator from Iowa, I think he'd be a good pick, actually. I know Ron DeSantis, this is, here we go back to Florida, but his name's been thrown around. I don't see, I know he's ambitious, he wants to be president, and he's got a problem here is he's going to be no longer governor in the next 2 years, after 2 years, and his name's going to be out of the limelight. If you were defense secretary and you could manage to make it 4 years with Trump, then your name would be out there and, would keep yourself relevant. But I just don't see him and Trump coexisting. I just don't see it. Another problem with him too is, he's going to be naming the next senator because Marco Rubio, which is the next pick for Secretary of State, which he will certainly sail right through. So he's going to be our next Secretary of State. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So that means we got to replace him here. There's a lot of names being thrown around who would take that job. I'm kind of surprised DeSantis doesn't give it to himself, and don't be surprised if he does, because that way he would be relevant and he would, he could pass on the governorship to his lieutenant governor, and he's still, he's still out there. I wouldn't be totally shocked if he did that, named himself as a U.S. senator, but the talk of the town is a little bit is like, oh, Laura Trump, Donald Trump, for DeSantis to become defensive secretary, would want Laura Trump to be named as the senator in Florida. Now, come on, man. She didn't even live here. I think she lived here for a year. She didn't do anything in politics at all except for the past year. She was one of the co-chairs of the Republican National Committee, whatever they even do, helped get Trump elected. So, I'm sure she has some skills, but U.S. Senator now? I don't know what she did before that. I think she was something to do with catering or something. I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure, but she has no political background whatsoever, and she doesn't even live here. That's carpetbagging 101. She does live here now. I take it back. They've lived here for about a year down in South Florida somewhere, and it's probably only part-time. She just ran for North Carolina. She was thinking about running for North Carolina Senator 2 years ago in 22, so come on. I hate when they do that because, Hillary Clinton did the same thing in New York, right? They moved to New York. A year later, she's their senator. She's from Arkansas. How does that work? It's just so, the whole thing, you get a little discouraged about how our politics work in this country. It just makes you shake your head and go, man, what the hell, right? So anyways, that's a possibility there that DeSantis would perhaps be defensive secretary, but I just can't see him and Trump. DeSantis doesn't want to be bossed around by Trump, and Trump doesn't like DeSantis anyway. I don't see it happening. We also got Robert Kennedy Jr. now for human health and human resources. Again, he's not a doctor, There's some things I think is great that he wants to do. Definitely fixing some of the additives they put in food. That is a huge issue, and that's something that, like in Europe, a lot of things that they don't even outlaw there, are allowed here. It does attribute itself to obesity and some other medical issues. Another thing too, I don't know if he doesn't really talk about it. For me, I'm really anti high fructose corn syrup, which is like they put in all the sodas and all the sweeteners, and then they put that is something that really causes a lot of obesity. It's really horrible. So that's something that he would probably be homing in on. So I could see that, but the other side of the coin is, he's just kind of a weird guy, right? I mean, he sawed off a whale's head and strapped it to the top of a family car because he saw it on a beach. He dumped a dead bear off in Central Park. I mean, that's kind of odd behavior, right? And also, he's very independent-minded. And I don't see him and Trump. I don't know. So it's going to be interesting if he gets through, and if he gets through, how long he gets to stay. Because, Trump probably doesn't want to put much time into that whole department as far as what they do and don't do, and he's probably ready to just let somebody else take it, i.e. Robert Kennedy Jr. But I could see that down the road causing problems. Look, when Trump was president before, most of his cabinet picks didn't make it to 4 years. I don't know if any of them did. He has a tendency to tire of people. And speaking of tiring people, I think he's going to get tired of Elon Musk here pretty quick. I think he already is trying to distance himself a little bit. Now, Elon Musk and Vic Ramaswamy are going to see if they can cut some fat in they call it Dodge, where they can cut fat in the government spending. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a terrible thing, actually. But, he has high hopes. They're not going to be able to cut, $2 trillion. That's just not happening. 60% of our budget goes for Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. 10% goes to pay off our debt, of the interest of the debt that we've created, $35 trillion, whatever it is. Another 12%, 13% for the defense. We're not going to cut that. So what does that leave you? About 20% left over. So if they can cut into that, that's good. I see them making some changes, and I think that's a good thing. I think people can get some center lane attitudes towards that. The media likes to, make it sound like the world is going to be blown up once Trump takes over. It's not happening, man. You know what? It's not happening. We got a strong country. We have layers of governments, local, state, county, federal, and the founders, the people that wrote our Constitution and founded this country were really, really smart, and it's paying dividends even now. So don't look for, the sky's not going to fall. I get so tired of hearing some of these talking heads go, oh, he's going to come in there and going to put everybody in jail, and he's going to get rid of every immigrant. It's just not really going to happen. If he gets rid of the people that committed crimes or here illegally, I think everybody's going to be okay with that, right? You can't argue with that. That's common sense. As far as going beyond that, we'll see. But it just costs a lot of money to kick people out, and there's got to be. Congress has to do their job and figure out some ways to make immigration work in this country better, and they just haven't been doing their job. And maybe this time they will. We'll see. But man, I'll tell you, history tells us our future sometimes, and the history of our government in some ways it's not super functional. I always kind of feel like, the economy runs our government. We really, the people here, run how things are going to work. Yes, we have politicians. Yes, they have power. But at the end of the day, I think we kind of set the pace, and our founders have put a system in place where that works. It's got its problems. It's got its issues. It's got its people crazy on right and left. But for the most part, I think, let's put it this way, they got a center lane constitution there, so that was really good. Last but not least, I want to mention it real quick, in Syria, that Assad is finally gone. If you ever really followed the Middle East or Assad and his father for the past 50 years, the brutality that those guys put on their people, talk about a government that's non-functional, and they, using poison gas on people. Any dissidents disappeared. They have hanging prisons, they call them. People, you go there and you aren't coming back out. So is this guy this group that took over Syria going to do a better job? He's saying all the right things, and if he was smart, he would stay in that path. I know you start worrying about when the Taliban starts congratulating you, start going, oh boy, here we go, another Afghanistan situation. But actually, the leader of this group, the name escapes me, and it's something I couldn't pronounce anyways. So I think he's saying the same thing. All people are created equal, man. Separate, if they can do it, separate church and state. It works for us. Protect everybody's freedom for religion, but don't get it mixed up with the government, you know, if you can help that, because it just, bad things can happen. You see it over there with the fundamentalists and stuff in some of those countries over across in the Middle East. So anywho, good luck to them. I think the Syrian people have a reason to celebrate, but also a reason to be cautious of what comes next. Hopefully that this new government can be put in place, can be something, it's a positive for us, it is, believe it or not. I know it seems like it's a long ways away, but they can shut down Iran's path to Hezbollah and all those other things with their weapons, and shut down those borders and get Iran, put it back in its place, which, by the way, you know, I could do a whole podcast about Iran, but we'll just skip it for now. So I'm going to wish them well. I'm going to keep track of that. It really is worth following and hoping for the best. Okay, so anyways, that's it for this week. Remember too, on my channel, Dick Nixon, you can get a free audiobook that I wrote called Bear. It's about a serial killer, and it's free. Okay, check that out, and I'll talk to you soon.